We're just getting new reaction from the White House to President Biden's bizarre story of his uncle who died in World War II. Here's what he said after visiting a World War II memorial in Scranton just yesterday.
Ambrose Finnegan, they called him Uncle Bozy. He was shot down. He was an Army Air Corps before there was an Air Force. He flew single-engine planes, reconnaissance flights over New Guinea. He had volunteered because someone couldn't make it. He got shot down in an area where there were a lot of cannibals in New Guinea.
Cannibals, you heard that right. Well, just hours later in Pittsburgh, he doubled down on the story.
My uncle, they called him Ambrose, they called him Bozy. My Uncle Bozy was a hell of an athlete, they tell me, when he was a kid. And he became an Army Air Corps before the Air Force came along. He flew those single-engine planes as reconnaissance over war zones. And he got shot down in New Guinea. And they never found the body because there were a lot of cannibals for real in that part of New Guinea.
Well, there's just one problem. The military's official record of the incident mentions nothing of cannibalism or his plane being shot down. It says that Biden's uncle died after the plane crashed into the ocean off the coast of New Guinea. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre responding just moments ago.
Look, you saw the president. He was incredibly proud of his uncle's service in uniform. You saw him at the war memorial. It was incredibly emotional and important to him. You saw him respond to all of you when asked about the moment yesterday. And his uncle, who lost his life when the military aircraft he was on crashed in the Pacific after taking off near New Guinea. The president highlighted his uncle's story as he made the case for honoring our sacred commitment to equip those we send to war and to take care of them and their families when they come home. And as he reiterated that the last thing American veterans are suckers or losers, and he wanted to make that clear. He wanted to make the story. I mean, look, I don't have anything beyond about what I just laid out, but it was a really proud moment for him.
So she turned that to an attack on Trump-Harris with a false story that she perpetuated. But the emotion that Biden had, that doesn't discount the fact that the story is just not true.
Well, she added her own details about when the plane would have been shot, near takeoff and so on and so forth. Look, my only guess is that the CEO of NPR is going to be out for saying that truth is a distraction. We know they're liberal bias, and that she's going to get the job next because the truth doesn't matter to her either. Why didn't she sit with the president? You talk about this all the time as a former press secretary. Sit down, Mr. President. We need to address this. How do you want to address it? And let's start with the facts. The Pentagon has said that the plane did some kind of an unknown ditch into the ocean. It was not, in fact, shot down, and no mention of cannibalism. Mr. President, how do you want to go forward? And they need to get their story straight because, as Kevin has already said this hour, we look like clowns to the rest of the world when we walk this stuff out.
We do. Michelle, I mean, in the headlines, it's as if the press is carrying the water of Karine Jean-Pierre and the Biden administration. Look at this. Biden is off on details. That's the Associated Press. Biden honors his uncle. Associated Press again. NBC, Biden mischaracterizes uncle's disappearance. I mean, that sounds like the words of Karine Jean-Pierre just as headlines for major news organizations.
It's incredible to me as a reporter who asked questions all the time because I wanted to know the facts, that people don't push back on this stuff, that they don't seem to fact check Biden. And when they do, it's later and they say, oh, you know, that was a harmless lie, a harmless little fib about cannibalism. Well, my thinking is that he's done this for his entire political career. And if he can get away with little flubs and lies about meaningless stories or stories where there's emotion and pride and all of this, he's probably lying or misrepresenting on a whole lot of other topics, too, like Afghanistan was our greatest evacuation, you know, that inflation is transitory, that all of these things that I don't know why he's allowed to get away with this, and shame on the mainstream media, quite frankly, for not pushing back in a way that is meaningful and holds the most powerful man in the world to account.
This is not how I'd want my legacy remembered.
Right.
In the controversy of did I get eaten by a cannibal? I mean, oh, come on.
Yeah, Emily.
He actually first started out with that lie, that collegiate lie, 40
Yes.
years ago, actually. That's the thing. The whole point is he's never been held to account in his 50 year of service to this country, because there's a fine line, or maybe in his situation, there's a big chasm between embellishment and pathologically lying. And for a movement and party that insists on speaking truth to power, I'm shocked that they let this Caucasian grandfatherly male continue to lie, while doing so dilute the memories and the honor of all of those important people and individuals and movements that he's pretending to be a part of, right? And now here's the thing, why it matters to us is not because he's falsifying the fact that he can relate to anyone and that lying is hideous, but that he's lying to us about his policies. The dollar's strong. The economy is great.
Yeah.
You're fine. Nothing to see here. That's why it matters, because his pathological lying has filtered through everything in his administration. I personally find it unacceptable. I'm not sure why his party thinks it's okay.
Well,
Now-
why is she doing it? Why is the
Right.
press secretary doing it?
Right. Well, if the
All
fact
down
checkers woke up from their slumber, maybe we'd have something resembling accountability. So wake up, you guys. All right.
I know that everyone here will soon be marching over to the Capitol building to peacefully and patriotically make your voices heard.
It's not about justice, it's not about agenda, it's not about mobilizing people, it's about dialing for corporate dollars. These two parties have sold the U.S. government and the American people to the highest bidders.